right, so what's about to pop up, I think, is an ad
just
for
wanted
this,
to-
so turn that shit down. But yeah, this is from Breitbart News, what I'm fixing up for you here. Yes, it has the disgusting title, Don Jr. Even Helen Keller is not woke enough for the left. The description reads, Saturday at Turning Point USA Student Action Summit in West Palm Beach, Florida. Donald Trump Jr. slammed the left's obsession with being woke and a recent Time magazine article attacking Helen Keller for her white privilege. Okay, I haven't read that article. I doubt attacked her for white privilege. I'm going to venture to say, and again, I'm only speculating, that attacking her for white privilege is probably a bit of a stretch at best. I don't doubt that she had some. In fact, I know she did because she wasn't poor as fuck. She had some privilege and she was white, and that's how it works in Western culture. But anyway, let's listen to this fucking waste of fucking oxygen and what he has to say.
The left will destroy anything. There's nothing that's sacred. There's nothing that's woke enough. It never ends. The other story that I got right after so I'm sitting there about the Indians. I'm like, I can't believe this shit. Right? It's just enough. Like,
the Indians.
When does it
okay,
end?
just,
and then
fuck you. The Indians, this piece of shit says. In 2020. I mean, indigenous First Nations, let alone, at least Native American, if not indigenous or First Nations, right? But no. Indians, this motherfucking piece of shit. This bigot motherfucker right here. Talking about what the left destroys. And in the first 13 seconds, he's already said some blatantly fucking racist shit about the First Nations, indigenous people here. That his father keeps a fucking picture of goddamn fucking Andrew Jackson in the White House. Why? Because Andrew Jackson was fucking responsible for the Trail of Tears. Fucking genocide against the indigenous First Nations people of this fucking America. First 13 seconds, this motherfucker has to shit on them.
I saw an article in Time magazine. They're canceling sort of a famous historical figure.
Right, canceling.
For not being woke enough. And I don't mean a former slave owner or anything like that.
How do we cancel someone who's been dead for a long time? That's not a thing. That's you can't. You can't undo a historic figure. This canceled thing is just bullshit. It's just another one of those fucking whistles. It's dog whistle, it's not perfect because dog whistle is implying racism, but without coming out and saying it. But it's one of those, but it speaks to the ear. It's just like Hunter Biden laptop. It means, oh yeah, Hunter Biden laptop. None of those people can tell you what's on Hunter Biden's laptop. They can say Biden crime family and China, and it's obvious. There's all the proof. We have all the proof. It's clear at this point. They'll say all that shit, right? But now here he is talking about fucking God.
You know who they're canceling now?
Canceling.
Helen Keller. No bullshit. No bullshit. They are, yeah. I guess today her crime is that she couldn't see the color of your skin. No.
Wow, dude. What the fuck? Okay, so you're gonna be the fucking bastion of I support and I'm gonna have Helen Keller's back as you make jokes about Helen Keller, dude. I mean, I made Helen Keller jokes when I was in third grade and shit too, dude. I did. And they were gross and totally inappropriate. And I probably even made them when I was a little older than that. Thank God that there wasn't the Facebooks when I was growing up. But really, dude? Really, you're going to come out as the fucking... you're going to defend fucking Helen Keller from the left that destroys everything. And you're going to defend her from being canceled as you make fucking jokes about her disposition. Disgusting.
True. I mean, in 2020, that must be true. So, but now think about it. They're canceling Helen Keller because she had white privilege. No bullshit. Read it. It's in Time magazine.
Okay, what's
There
the
are
quote?
people out there. She didn't know what she was, probably. Who knows?
Wow.
But this is a woman
Fuck
born
you.
in like 1880
Right.
who was blind and deaf.
Yep.
That's a pretty serious obstacle.
It is a very, very serious obstacle. And imagine if you had been black with her same disposition. And you didn't have any base wealth and a consistent and safe fucking roof over your head. What if you didn't have all that and you had all the same issues that Helen Keller overcame? It can happen. You can be a black person or a brown person and still overcome them in the same way Helen Keller did. But pointing out that, yeah, again, I didn't read the piece, but you can still have white privilege. You can still have white privilege and be blind and incapable of speech and deaf. You can be all those things and still have white privilege. And having white privilege does not make anyone evil or bad. And no one on the left has ever said that. If you are unwilling to recognize your white privilege and the existence of white privilege, and you go about your life under that mindset or frame of mind that this isn't real and I don't have any when you do, you're going to end up doing a lot of really gross, shitty things to people. The more aware you are of your privilege, the less likely you are to shit on people with less privilege than yourself.
That's a hard one to come over. That is not someone who's being oppressive. That's someone who's been oppressed by whether it's genes or...
White privilege doesn't mean you're being oppressive. They straw man us with this shit all the time. That, like, if we point out that you have white privilege, we're then saying, oh, you're evil and you're oppressive and you're trying to, like, hurt people. We don't say that. Unless you're actually doing those things and we can be like, oh, well, but you are doing those things and here's the examples of it. But that's not what's being said when we're like, hey, man, let's recognize the role that privilege plays in all facets. Sometimes it's the lack of privilege that's prominent and that plays the prominent role. Sometimes it's the abundance of privilege that plays the role. But having privilege does not make you oppressive. And saying and pointing out your privilege is not accusing you of being oppressive.
Or medicine or life, whatever happened, whatever caused it, that's a serious condition. That's not entitlement.
No.
This is a woman that, in the early 1900s, deaf and blind, became an activist who fought for women's suffrage.
Yeah, and had you been around at that time, you would have fucking despised her. A woman fighting for votes, for the right to vote. You are the equivalent of who would have shit all over her at the time, dude. There's just so no getting around it. In the same way that these fucking scumbags on the right want to appropriate the legacy of people like Martin Luther King and whitewash his legacy and fucking water it down into fucking something totally ahistoric. Now what? He wants to appropriate fucking the legacy and the triumphs of Helen Keller? She was an oppressed minority who overcame immense obstacles to fight for a woman's right to vote. Donald Jr. is literally the 2020 equivalent of her, a member of her arch nemesis class at the time. Her contemporary arch nemesis group is, Don Trump is the 2020 modern version of it. Let's be fucking real. Disgusting, man, that he wants to try and appropriate the legacy of Helen Keller. He's an advocate for Helen Keller now. He's like Helen Keller in a way, because what? They do marches with Proud Boys where they go and stab people and beat the shit out of them and whatever. And he's at a TPUSA event, for the kids that, mostly it's boomers that fucking pay attention to this dipshit. Such a fucking gross grift at the expense of the most vulnerable, including Helen Keller, who's dead and can't fucking defend herself against this fucking gross appropriation.
I mean, think about it. I think that would be tough today with modern advancements, with technology, with computers, with everything. But in 1900, it was a lot harder.
Yes, it was.
I don't know much about it, but I can only imagine.
You sure don't.
Must have been brutal, right? So she became an activist for women's voting rights. She became an activist for labor when you needed it. Not what we see from like the teachers union now.
What? She became an activist for labor when you needed it, not like these teachers now that are fighting for a fucking living wage? What? What? You fucking scumbag that's trying to rewrite history? It's the same labor. It's the same fight for labor. It's the same fight of labor. The teachers now, it's the same fight, man. It's the oppression from the same capitalist fucking ruling class, imperialist fucking scummery. Oh, but because Don Jr.'s decided that Helen Keller's somehow on his side, her fight in solidarity with labor is different than teachers' fucking struggles today. What a fucking scumbag, man. I mean, there's just nothing even remotely factual about any of this garbage. And let's remember, this fucking bastion of fucking defense of Helen Keller started out by making a joke about her disposition. Let's not forget.
And, it's about, the only thing it's not about is the students. We've sort of seen this consistent theme, right? They don't want to work.
They don't want to work.
Fine.
Right.
They don't want to do online learning.
Oh, right.
But they want to get paid.
Right. They don't want to do online learning, but they want to get paid. No, dude, they don't want to fucking die from COVID, you piece of shit. Not just the children that these right-wingers are trying to force back into schools so that capitalism can keep making money over the fucking bodies of dead children, including college students, too. I can tell you, I mentioned on stream before, I talked about my scholastic record where I had a 3.5. The reason I had a 3.5 and not a 4.0 grade point average was because the 3 online classes I took. I did not learn well in online classes in college, and I barely skated with a passing like D plus C minus in each of those 3 classes. And that's why my GPA is not a fucking 4.0, because I learn in a classroom setting. Now, I don't want to go and risk COVID to learn right now, though. What a bullshit fucking death cult straw man, dude. Like, oh, they're not fighting for anything. They just want to do nothing and get paid. Wow.
They want to, of course. I mean, that's sort of the nature of the game, right? So there was a time where this made sense, though, and she fought for that. Now, I would have thought that the left would actually love Helen Keller because she was also a socialist. Given their social sort of going full commie these days, you would think that they would have adopted her. But you can be a blind, deaf, female, activist, socialist, and not be woke enough for today's radical left.
Okay, that's all a massive, massive fucking straw man, because all he has illustrated is that there's a Time magazine article that apparently mentions that Helen Keller had white privilege. Okay, he doesn't cite where they talk about how that makes her evil and a threat to anything, and that she should be despised or hated in any way. It just mentions it. I don't know, because I don't read fucking Time magazine. And as my friend and comrade says, I don't learn by watching bread tubers. Welcome, A-Bear. I'm stoked you're here, comrade. But again, I mean, if you're going to act like, we on the left all of a sudden hate Helen Keller based on something Time magazine said, Let's be real about that. Time Magazine ain't exactly fucking Rose City Antifa, man. You know? I mean, let's give it up for Teen Vogue, but Time Magazine ain't even that, yo. But, you know, that's the bastion of the left, and they happen to, I guess, what I can gather is mention that Helen Keller had white privilege, you know, because she did, but that we hate her now, and we've canceled her. And see, and this does fall in line, fam. I'll say this. It does keep in line with their framing and their talking points right now, because their thing is, we're all socialists and communists now, and Biden's communist and socialist. But they're also been pushing this talking point that we actually don't know what socialism and communism is. So we're fake, right? So that's perfect for him, that he would be like, well, of course a real socialist communist like Helen Keller, of course the left now would hate him because we're the fake socialist communists. Okay? Of course that's garbage. That's garbage. And I don't know a whole lot about Helen Keller's history. I don't know, frankly, if she held to socialist ideas, if she was an anti-capitalist. It wouldn't surprise me. If she was advocating for labor, she'd have issues with fucking capitalism. Which totally keeps her in line with what's happening today. But look, there's like a little bit left here. Less than a minute that I'll let play out, and then I'll play some music.
Guys! That doesn't instill a lot of confidence in me in the future, but that's the problem. No one's calling out the nonsense. No one's doing it. We're doing it amongst ourselves, but we need to be louder. We need to fight harder. Again, think of the mentality. The mentality I'm talking about is the mentality that allowed Donald Trump to be successful. It allowed him to become president of the United States.
Oh my God. Right. That allowed him to be successful and become president of the United States. What Helen Keller did. It's the same thing. You know, Helen Keller and his dad, pretty much identical biographies.